What do I think of the restrictions of using old models in tournaments? I answer this question and more in this month's Q&A. It's coming right up. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to keep up to date with the Wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please subscribe and hit the bell button to turn on all notifications so you don't miss an upload. Right, today is Q&A episode number 2 for this month. So on Monday I did my Necron questions and answers, and today it's all the other questions that I got from the previous month's video. Before I answer those questions though, I have a question for you, and it's all about Instagram. So I am on Instagram, however, I can't open my Instagram app. It's been happening to me now for about 2 or 3 weeks. Whenever I press the Instagram app, it opens, it goes to white, and then it just closes. Now I've reinstalled the app, I've uninstalled and reinstalled the app, and then I've also turned off my phone and restarted it many times. However, I'm still getting the same issue. Now Instagram deny any issues, any problems, and to be fair, I really don't know what to do. It's been really hard not being on Instagram, because obviously I like posting on there quite regular. Now I've googled it, and there are some people saying that they are having issues, however Instagram are not acknowledging it. So my question is your Instagram working? Let me know in the comments box below. If it isn't and you have a solution, then please let me know that, because I'm incredibly frustrated with Instagram. And whilst you're there, don't forget to ask me a question for next month's Q&A. Right, on to your questions. And the first one is from Model-Led or Modelled. And he says, why do you not do Patreon for some extra money for your channel? Thank you for the question. I do actually do Patreon. I've got a little sign there just to prove it. So yeah, I've got Patreon. I basically opened it up because I was getting a few requests about support for the channel. Now I do get a lot of support for the channel. I get a lot of, obviously, interaction with my subscribers, which is the most important thing to me. That is just awesome. And I get many gifts for my subscribers as well, which again is probably one of the best ways to you know to be supported. That is just awesome. And obviously some people have donated money, and I've had a few Patreons come and go over the years. I think I've only got 2 at the moment. Now I don't do extra content for the Patreon page, because I've always thought or always wanted my channel to be free content for everyone. I'm not here to make money, I'm here to share my hobby and to maybe help others and to build some good relationships with some people from around the world, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Obviously I have my Google ads turned on, so I am making some money from that, but yeah, the Patreon, I mean, I could potentially do some videos that you can only see on Patreon and maybe try to get people to go over there, but the way I see it, if you want to donate, then fantastic, but you know, I'm not here for that, and I'd rather put the hours it would take to make a behind the wall video into videos which I can put on YouTube to help my channel grow. So I'd rather invest my time making content for YouTube than making content for Patreon. Now when you get to 30,000 subscribers here on YouTube, you unlock the membership button, which is similar to what YouTube used to have in the past, where effectively it's like a Patreon but on YouTube. Now when that happens, because it's on the YouTube platform, I might consider doing a few extra videos for memberships. So I might go down that route, but it will, as far as I'm concerned, the best thing for me to do is put all of my time and effort into the YouTube channel. I don't blog anymore. I used to blog 3 times a week. I just took up time. Now I put that time into research and making thumbnails and all the rest of it for YouTube. So my time and energy goes into YouTube. I want to keep it on YouTube because ultimately the more time you put in, the more success you will have. So there you go. But yeah, there is a Patreon page, and if you just search IDICBeer 40k on Patreon, you'll find my page. There you go. Right, next question is from Peter Perry, and he says, do you read any Warhammer 40k books? I personally really enjoy the Horus Heresy books. I did start to read the Fulgrim book, and I very nearly got rid of it. I have to be honest, the subscriber giveaway box, the mystery box which I gave away, I nearly put that book in there, and then I thought twice about it, and I thought, Nick, you need to read it, it's supposed to be a really good book. So I took it back out and I kept it. I do one day want to read it. I think it's going to be one of those like relaxing holiday books I'm going to take with me, because I just don't get time to read. You know, I'm single dad, and with a girlfriend, and making videos and working and blah 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 blah, usual story. So I don't really get time to read. So I've kept it back though for a reading holiday one day, because I would like to read that book. I've read about 20 pages and that's as far as I got. Okay, next question is from CM Wargames. What's your favourite army to play from what you own? I know, what's your next favourite? Because obviously he's assuming my favourite is Necrons, which of course it is. My next favourite, I'm definitely going to say Tyranids, because they're very fun and they're very different from Necrons. And I do like Eldar as an army, but I don't necessarily think the Eldar fit my playing style so much. So I'm going to say Tyranids would be my next army. If I had to cut down all of my armies to two, only play two armies, it would be Necrons and Tyranids. They're quite contrasting in their play styles, and they're both fun. So yeah, thank you for the question. Next one is from 36, who says, since the start of April I've resumed studying and haven't been able to find the time to have a game of 40k, and it doesn't look like I'll have the opportunity to play a game for several more years due to coursework, personal life and potential work obligations. With my finances being as they are, barely scraping by, I've been considering selling off my army, as it's just sitting in my car gathering dust. In a nutshell, my question is, at what point would you consider it a good idea to call it quits and sell your army to focus on other things? Okay, great question. Something which actually I've been thinking about myself, because, excuse the sip of coffee, because I've hardly been playing my armies, apart from Necrons, for quite some time now. And that's down to how 8th edition has gone, and with me with less time to play. And I've been reconsidering, should I sell some of my armies? Because I've got a lot, and I think I've been through lots of stages. I mean, when I first started, I wanted to collect Necrons, only Necrons, have a big, massive Necron army. A couple of years later, started the Space Wolves. So actually I want to play something different to Necrons, a contrasting army. So I went for a close combat Space Wolves army. And then I was offered a Tyranid army incredibly cheap, so I couldn't refuse it. Then I got Tyranids. Walked past a charity shop, saw some Eldar in the window. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was such a good buy, I had to buy it. And then I bought the Codex, and then I had an Eldar army. And then I did this £25 army challenge on YouTube, which ended up into a 2,000 point Dark Eldar army. And then I got divorced and started the Emperor's Children army as a divorce army. So I've started lots of armies over the years. I'm now at that stage where I'm thinking, if I only had a Necron army and I just played Necrons every week, I'll be happy. And I sort of think, I wish I'd put all of that money that I spent on those other armies into the Necrons, because even now, although I've got a large Necron army, I don't have exactly what I want. I've only got 1 Triarch Stalker. I want 3 Triarch Stalkers. I've only got 2 Doomsday Arcs. You know, I want another Doomsday Arc. Actually, I do have one because I was given one. I've got to build it. But basically, yeah, Immortals. I need Immortals because I've only got old school Warriors, which I use for Immortals with Tesla. I've got some old Gauls Immortals, which are fine, but I need some Tesla Immortals, especially if I want to go to tournaments. Now, potentially, if I didn't have all those other armies, I would have all of those models for Necrons. So, I think I've gone off to a massive tangent here. Why am I talking about this? Yeah, should you sell your army? So I've been thinking about selling my armies, that's it. But I have decided I don't want to sell my armies because they're part of my hobby journey, and I've got a lot of money, time invested in them, and of course it's all my stuff, my artistic stuff on there, you know, my painting and my conversions and everything. So my advice is, unless you absolutely have to, don't sell your army, because I think one day you'll regret it. When I think about selling stuff, I always remember the Star Wars figures, you know, the original Star Wars. When I was born in 72, Star Wars came out in 77, I was 5. I had all the figures, you know, from the 70s, and when I got to, I think I was about 16, I wanted a record player, so I sold all of my figures. I remember selling them, I sold them all for £1 each, and for the money that I got, I bought a second-hand record player. At the time it was a good deal, I was happy. Now I totally regret that, because how cool would it be to own a massive collection of Star Wars figures from the 70s, original ones. So yeah, don't sell if you can help it. I mean, if you absolutely have to because of finances, then fine, but you never know the future. Just keep hold of them if you can. That's my advice. Very good question, and yeah, took me adjacent there, so there you go. Anyway, so next question is from Raceman TV, and he says, if you got the chance to play with a second army, which army would it be and why? So yeah, Raceman TV, I think you're fairly new to the channel, so I do have 6 armies, and Tyranids tend to be my second favourite army to play, but I don't play it much at the moment because, like I explained, you know, 8th edition rules, it's hard to get your head around them sometimes without investing a fair amount of time and potentially new models. It's like my Eldar army, it's well out of date now with the model range that I've got, and that can become an issue. So yeah, next question is from Zombie Dad, and he says, would you ever do a Star Trek / 40k crossover battle report using Astra Militarum or Imperial agents for the away team? Do you have any Star Trek minis? I don't have any Star Trek minis, I do have some Star Trek collectibles. I have a battle report playing Scragguard. Scragguard, where are you? It's been about 3 years since we saw you on YouTube, but he had a custom built Imperial Guard / Eldar army, which was based on Star Wars, Darth Vader, Star Wars, the baddies, and yeah, I played him with my Eldar. So I had Eldar and he had his Star Wars Imperial Guard Eldar army. We had a great game. He had converted his Wraith Knight into the, oh, what's it called? I cannot remember what it's called. No, I can't remember. The beast which is in the prison cell underneath the lair of Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi. That beast. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, he had converted his Wraith Knight into that, and I had my Wraith Knight with the Batleth. We went toe to toe. I'll link you up. It's a 7th edition battle report, but I'll link you up to that battle report just there. So yeah, I have played. I don't have any other plans to do anything Star Trek related. I have a little pipe dream of a Borg army made of servitor models, but I don't think that will ever happen, but I think that would be really cool. Yeah, I would need a lot of servitor models. I don't even know if it's doable regarding the rules, but it sounds cool. Great question, thank you. Right, next up is from IronCladHunter. He said, would you be able to list all the Star Trek seasons from least favourite to favourite? I can. I've done this before, but of course now we have a new series. We've got the yeah, it's so good I can't even remember it. Discovery, that's the one. So yeah, let me do this. So now the thing I need to note here is that this order is not like really high and really low order of really good, really bad. It's an order of I like them all, but there is a slight tier. Okay, so with that in mind, my favourite series is Voyager. Next is the original series, then Next Generation, then Deep Space Nine from season 4 onwards. The first couple of seasons are okay, but definitely season 4 onwards, Deep Space Nine. And Enterprise, I actually really like Enterprise. There's really not much difference between these. And then at the bottom will be Discovery. Whilst it's good, it just, to me, it doesn't feel like Star Trek. I'm really hoping that season 3 will become proper Star Trek. They're lost out, you know, they're lost. There's no other things, wherever they've gone, there's nothing that we know already, this brand new place. And I'm really hoping they go back to basics and they give us Star Trek stories. I want stories. Yeah, some special effects is great, you know, but I want a story. You know, I don't want to sit there for 45 minutes or however long it is just watching a load of special effects with a weak story. I want a really good story. That's what Star Trek is, it's good storytelling. So, fingers crossed for season 3. So far Discovery is at the bottom of my pile, but I don't really dislike it. It's just, that's how I describe it. It's good, but it's not Star Trek. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. Next question is from 6+ Stevo, and he says, which third-party company do you think make the best alternative miniatures or parts for 40k? I've not had too many experiences with this, so I don't tend to use third-party stuff. I'm a bit of an original person, you know, I do like to have the original stuff if I can. My Noise Marines was my first experience with third-party stuff, and I went to Spellcrow because they do some Pleasure Marines, which basically are Noise Marine bits, and that was my first experience. And the reason why I went to them is because Games Workshop don't really support Noise Marines. They've got sort of one sprue, which is ultra expensive, would be very repetitive through 36 Noise Marines, and is made of fine cast. So I went to Spellcrow, and I have to say the Spellcrow stuff is absolutely awesome. Really great detail, very well sculpted. And I can only answer by saying that I think Spellcrow is one of the better ones, because I haven't had too much experience with the other companies. I'm sure they're all actually pretty good. But yeah, I'm going to say Spellcrow. Okay, so next question is from MorkNGork, and he says, do you use plasticard for any conversions or scratch builds? Would you ever consider scratch building a vehicle? So yeah, I've used plasticard on some of my conversions. So I used it on my Aldar Flyer conversion. So I made a Crimson Hunter stroke Crimson Hunter. What's the other one? Don't you hate it when your brain fails you? Crimson Hunter and Hemlock Destroyer. I knew it. Hemlock. yeah, so I made a conversion of that model out of a Wave Serpent, and it's all magnetised, so I can have both options. It looks super cool, or at least I think it does. Let me know what you think in the comments box below. But yeah, I made that conversion and I used some plastic cards on it. I also made some Dark Eldar vehicles using plastic card for some of the sections which I had missing. So I certainly have worked with plastic card. Would I scratch build a model or a vehicle? I would if I needed to. I wouldn't go out of my way to just randomly scratch build something, because I have a lot of projects that already want to do models that I still need to paint and models still need to build. So I tend to build to play rather than for the sake of it. So yeah, I've got no plans to scratch build a vehicle at this moment in time, but who knows the future. Especially obviously now that Games Workshop actually make models for the units that you can play with, or at least most of them, if not all of them. Unlike the old days where you used to have models, I used to have a unit, sorry, with no models, you had to make your own. Okay, next question is from Leman Russ, and he says, what do you think about restrictions on using old models in tournaments? For example, I have lots of old metal space wolves, and if I wasn't allowed to use them, I would go mad, considering I bought them years ago from Games Workshop store. Yeah, so obviously friendly play, basement gaming, or whatever you want to call it, is not going to be an issue. It certainly shouldn't be an issue. Tournaments also really shouldn't be an issue. Now I can understand the base size issue, where I think at some point tournaments will restrict you in terms of using the wrong base sizes. Or certainly, they're going to restrict you in that you have to have the current base sizes that Games Workshop have. So, rather than 25mm for an orc boy, you'll have to have a 32mm. So I can understand that, because it does have big implications on the rules. And now older models, of course, tend to be smaller, so there is the issue. For example, I've got two Flying Hive Tyrants, the metal ones, and they're pretty small compared to the big new ones. And I can see that arguably, that would give you an advantage if you were trying to hide it, say, behind a piece of terrain. So it obviously is an issue, and tournaments have to do what they have to do to keep it as fair as possible. Now I'm not a tournament player, but I sort of think if you want to be a tournament player, or at least if you want to be a competitive tournament player, then you have to do what you have to do. And from what I've seen, most tournament players will, just buy the latest thing, so they've got it, so they can go to events, rather than, if you're a tournament player that just likes to go and have fun and play a few games and just play whatever army you've got, then that is a different story. I suppose what I'm saying is, what do I think about the restrictions? I think they're fair, because it is an issue. If you go to a tournament, especially if there's like prizes and money involved, you want it to be as fair as possible for everyone. So I sort of can understand the restrictions. But if it's just like a little local event, just for fun and stuff, then that shouldn't really be an issue, should it? It shouldn't be an issue. I mean, if I play my Tyrants, for example, I usually, if I'm, especially obviously only in friendly games, so I don't, I haven't taken them to a tournament. I've only ever played Necrons at a tournament. But what I tend to do is just say, well, here's the model. I say, but the new one's this big, so yeah, I'm standing here, but you'll be able to still shoot it. That's what I normally do. It's like, well, yeah, I might be playing this model, but the new model's like much bigger. So drawing line of sight and stuff, that's usually what I do, rather than saying, yeah, this is the model, you can't see it. I usually say, yeah, this is the model, but the proper model now is much bigger, so yeah, you can shoot it, and I can get my psychic power off. Interesting question, that. Yeah, okay, so next question is, we're going to find it, here we go, Dave Reid, and he says, have you ever played Age of Sigmar? And if you do, what army do you play? I've started to get into it. I got Flesh Eater Corps. Okay, Flesh Eater Corps. Not quite sure if I know that range of minis. Okay, I played it once. I played Khorne, Chaos Khorne. I played it with Ace Face, and he brought Skaven and the Khorne. I chose the Khorne because I just started making my Emperor's Children army, so I was into Chaos, so that's what I chose. Had one game, I won it. It was before 8th edition, so we were just getting an idea of how 8th edition rules might sort of work. Again, I just don't have time. Don't have time for Age of Sigmar, but I do think they've got an excellent range of models. Okay, next question is from Leon T66, and he says, after the success of your mini home tournament, would you consider doing a larger one at a big venue like Lenton, but not exclusively at that location? Excuse me. I personally think you'd get a lot of interest and could sell tickets up front. I used to run day trips to Games Workshop HQ from my store, and they always sold out. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I definitely am considering a bigger event next year in some form of hall, and the guys that I spoke to that came to my house said that they would certainly all sort of pull together to make that happen. And obviously the more people we have, well, arguably we could do it maybe in a ticket scenario. I wouldn't want it to turn into a tournament as such. I want it to turn into a meet-up with games. That's sort of how I envisage it, really. It's all about fun. Not that tournaments aren't fun, but I don't want the tournament to be the focus. I want the meeting YouTubers and fans, subscribers, fans, and then, you know, to play a few games, because why not? But yeah, that's something definitely I would consider for the next one. Okay, next question is from Victor Quest, and he says, you have been focused on Necrons since 8th edition came. Are you planning to play any of your other armies in the short future? If yes, which one? So yeah, once again, just no real time to play other factions at the moment. I've tinkled with the Eldar and I've tinkled with the Tyranids, but it was very prudent that I really didn't know what I was doing, and also I didn't have the right model range for that army. And same with Necrons, really. I had to sort of get extra models to make the army work. So I think if I did sort of play Eldar, for example, you know, I've only got 2 fire prisms, I need another fire prism, and yeah, I'm just not feeling it really at the moment. 8th edition has sucked the life out of my armies, except for my Necrons. I'm just sticking with Necrons really for 8th edition. So, you know, so many releases, so many updates, it's just so hard to keep on top of everything with more than one army. I just can't cope, so I've stuck with Necrons. Brush and Quill is next, and he says, when I started GW there was no Wave Serpent model. In fact, my first White Dwarf showed how to convert one. What was the first model you built, as there was no official one? Do you still have it and prefer it over the Games Workshop one? Okay, so it's not going to be Necrons, but it's going to be my second army, I think, Space Wolves, because I did the 13th Company, which was the very small army codex from the Eye of Terror, and we had units like a Wolf Lord in there, which the only Wolf Lords were just the standard ones. They didn't have any Chaos armour on them, so I converted one of those so that it had Chaos armour on the Wolf Lord. I think that's probably my first one. However, the more prominent ones would be the Tyranids, when they came out with the codec with 5-6 units that there was just no models for. So you had the drop pods, had no models. There was the Tervagon, had no models. Doom and Melantai, no model. And I had to scratch build or convert or make those models myself. So that's probably the biggest single sort of era of making my own models. And of course then eventually Games Workshop either said, well, we're not going to make a Doom and Melantai, let's just take him from the codex. My model, not usable anymore, well, only as a normal Zoanthropes. They sort of had brought him back as the, what's it called, the Neothropes or something, but it's not Doom and Melantai. And then obviously they brought the Tervagon out, which was now bigger than my Tervagon, so my Tervagon usually just makes it as a Carnifex. But yeah, I have all of the models. I've only ever sold one model, and that's when I had a Demon Prince, because when I was doing my Space Wolves army, I was playing against Demon Hunters at the time, regular, and in the back of the Demon Hunter Codex was some rules for if your opponent to basically turn into demons. So I had some demonettes, not demonettes, I had a Demon Prince, and then I had some little, I think they were Corn Wolves, which are now part of my Space Wolves army. And I had those so that I could change into demons from his codex, but all those rules went, and I had this Demon Prince, and my buddy was starting chaos, so I sold it to him. That's the only model I've ever sold. Okay, next question is from Old Average Brit Gaming, which is him. It's Nick, and he says, where do you get your Necron dice from? Yeah, I explained that in the previous video, and that's just a joke, so thank you, Nick, for that question, my most asked question. Right, why did you pick this music for this video? I picked this music, I felt like I was in a spa relaxing room. Yes, that's why I chose it really, because it's nice relaxing music, and this video is supposed to be as chilled and unedited as possible. There are a few edits, mainly because the camera will only record for a certain amount of time in one clip. But yeah, that's why I chose it basically, because it was relaxing. So I'm glad you feel like you're in a spa. How fickle do you think the Games Workshop hobby community is when it comes to new releases? Not that long ago we hardly got anything new, maybe every 3 or 4 months. Now we get stuff weekly. Yet I see complaints of no more Space Marines, and the very next comment being, we need Space Marine bikes. Do you think the current community is spoilt, and the level expectation on Games Workshop is damn if you do and damned if you don't? Yeah, I think totally. Obviously everyone wants the updates for their army, and I quite often see it on the Warhammer community Facebook page. How the hell those admins of that Facebook page can cope with it. I'm sure they're just sitting there laughing at all the comments. Whenever they do a release or an announcement on there, you look at the comments, and it's the same comments all the time. It's like, when will I get an Emperor's Children Codex? You know, when will this happen? When will that happen? Yeah, we all want stuff to happen, but I think Games Workshop, they get it quite hard really, and I'm sure they're doing their best, and from what I've seen they are doing very, very well. I mean, the amount of releases is awesome, and I think from what I can see, the only thing which has suffered from the amount of releases in terms of the Games Workshop side, not in terms of us as hobbyists, but I feel like the painting of the Games Workshop stuff level has gone down a little bit, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it makes it more attainable to do what they're doing. And obviously with the YouTube tutorials as well, you can tell they're pacing them to, you know, tabletop, just above tabletop level. Well, I always remember looking at Games Workshop models in White Dwarf and the Codex, looking at them thinking, how the hell am I going to paint that. That looks so good. Now I look at a model, okay, I'm more experienced at painting, but even so, I now look at a model and think, yeah, you know, I could do that. Just like, you know, layered down, washed, highlighted, no trouble. So I think that suffered slightly, but not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, I think we are spoilt. I mean, the amount of release is just crazy, and I've experienced going 10 years without a new Necron Codex, and it doesn't get much worse than that. I think it does for some people. Yeah, of course, sisters. But, you know, it's happening, and, you know, they must be planning their stuff a good few years in advance, I would have thought, because it's the only way you can keep on top of everything, right? And obviously that's probably why we get a few errors coming along, because it's done so far in advance, especially with books and things. So, yeah. Okay, thanks for the question, Nick. Next one is from PaStef, and he says, what do you think about Kill Team? More precisely, when I entered the 40k realm not long ago, I thought Kill Team was a good way to play whilst waiting to have a big enough army to play 40k. But then I discovered that Kill Team quickly makes you want to create multiple teams from diverse factions, because it's often not that expensive and pretty quick to do compared to one big army, and because it offers different feel of play. But then all the time you spend doing that, you're not creating your 40k army. So if one can't stick to one faction in Kill Team, it becomes antagonist to 40k. So now, for example, I've chosen to concentrate on my 40k army, but because Kill Team is not that simple and needs involvement, I don't know if I'll play it. What do you think about that? I think you're in exactly the same position everyone else is in. I've made a decision many years ago to only stick to 40k, and I'll only play another game if a buddy of mine has it and he has an army for me to play, and we just have a fun game. So I've not really committed to anything else. I do have a Blood Bowl team, but I won that. My buddy has Blood Bowl, I occasionally play it with him. So I've sort of said 40k, that's it for me, and it's worked quite well. And your situation with the Kill Team, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people out there doing a lot of systems. You know, some people play 40k, Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, Blood Bowl, you know, and they probably do X-Wing as well and a few other games. And it just depends how much time you've got, or how much time you're willing to commit per week or month to that particular, you know, hobby. So it is a problem, and you are right, it's best to pick on something that you enjoy the most and just solely concentrate on that. Okay, next question is from RedGreen09, and he says, do you use paint pens? Me like to have them as a quick touch up or fixes. Okay, hard a quick tip to all. Okay, it's got a quick tip to all. If you're priming, say, Imperial Guard uniforms, it's better to spray them with a tan spray rather than black primer. I think that's what basically he's saying, which is a great tip, yeah. If you can spray them the base colour, then it's a good start. No is the answer, not pens. I haven't really used paint pens. I've used a pen to do a purity seal once, which I did. I wrote a word on there, and then the next day it all spread everywhere. So I had to paint over it, and then I freehanded it, and I probably had the wrong pen, but from now on, or from then on, I've only ever freehanded stuff, so I just do freehand. Okay, next question from Basic Miniature Painting, and he says, where is your ideal holiday location? Okay, at the moment, I'm going to say, America. I want to go to America because I've never been. Now, I don't know if it's my ideal holiday location because I haven't been, but it's like the next place that I would like to go. So I'm going to say the USA. Where in the USA? I don't really know. The obvious question is probably maybe New York. But where do you think I should go in America if I go? Let me know in the comments box below. Okay, next question is from HellCorrex26. He said, Nick, you're sucked back into the mirror universe again with only your personal communication device. What are the 3 books or book series that you would want on it to pass the time whilst waiting to get home? So that basically means bring back the mirror universe, which was the question I asked in the last episode. So yeah, mirror universe, who knows, might come back. So what 3 books would I take, or book series? I'd probably take one of my Star Trek books with me, because I love reading Star Trek and I've got a lot of books I haven't read yet. So most of those books do come in series of 3s, or at least a lot of them do. So I'd probably just pick a series. I don't really care which one it is. I'll just take any set of 3 Star Trek books that I haven't read, and that would do me. I know I should take the Fulgrim book, but I probably would take Star Trek. Okay, so the next question is from Alexander Warren, and he says, how are you getting on with painting your Noise Marines? He does have a few other questions. Let's answer that one. So the Noise Marines, I haven't done any painting on them since the last update, and the reason for that is I took a break to paint the orcs for my orc commission that I did for Richard, and that happened at the same time I met my girlfriend. So I did a slightly less hobby for a few months, and I'm now getting back into doing more hobby. And once I'd finished the orcs, which was to a deadline, and it took a lot out of me to make sure I got them painted to the quality that I wanted, I thought I'd have a break from painting. So I made my tomb blades. I made 6 tomb blades, magnetised them all, and I'm currently making another 3 because I wanted a unit of 9. I do want more than 1 unit, but that's my starting point. And then once I finish those tomb blades, I'm going to get back to the Noise Marines. So I want to finish these Noise Marines if I can by the end of the year. So if I, let's say, start in October, November, December, that gives me 3 months. Hopefully that will be enough time. I am raring to go with them, which is great, which is why I took the break from painting the orcs, because now I really feel like painting, because I haven't painted now for probably about a month, and I've got the urge and the inspiration and the motivation to paint them, because I've had that little break. I think if I'd gone straight into painting the Noise Marines, which is a massive task, 36 Noise Marines, I think I might have struggled. So I'm glad I had the break, and I'm raring to go, and I'm due to get on them very soon. So yeah. Okay, next question is, what would your Inquisitor warbands be made up of? Will they be made of the Imperium, such as rogue traders, Space Marines or Tech Priests, or an Inquisitor warband made of the enemies of the Imperium, such as Chaos Lords, the demonic legions of Chaos, Genestealer cult leaders, or twisted mutants? Okay, I'm very glad you gave me some examples there, because without them I would be struggling. I don't really know too much about the Inquisitor warband, but I like the idea of twisted mutants. That sounds cool. Or probably just the demonic legions of Chaos. Something Chaos based, I think. Yeah, definitely not Space Marines. Okay, next question from him is, would you like to see the board game Blood Bowl set in the 40k universe? That is a good question. I don't think so. Blood Bowl for me is okay, but it's definitely not one of my favourite games. I find it difficult to get my head around the rules. B, I want to play. I mean, it's basically American football, isn't it? And I'm not a huge fan of not just American football, but football in general. I'm not a football fan, so the game doesn't have that appeal to me. And if I do play it, I always like to play the game, football, and try and score a goal. But the game doesn't seem to be about that so much. It seems to be more about killing your enemy on the football pitch. So it's not my favourite game, and I don't think I would play it even if it was a 40k version. So I would say no to that. I don't think I'd like to see a 40k version of that game. Right, that was the last question. Don't forget, if you've got a question for me for next month's episode, pop it down in the comments box below, and there is the Necron Q&A version which I did just recently. So check that out, and if you're not subscribed yet, start now and hit the IDICBeer icon. Beam me up.